think the key thing is we're looking at technologies that are not the same as ours.
Yes.
And that's
yes,
partly
that's the
why
point.
archaeologists can't see them, because they're looking for us in the past, and they're not open to the possibility that there are whole other kinds of technology that could be used.
Right.
I always go back to the ancient Egyptian traditions that speak of priests chanting as these huge blocks were lifted into the air. Were they using some kind of sound effect, some kind of use of sound that was able to manipulate matter? We know that sound can manipulate matter, as a matter of fact, but they're lifting these blocks. Again and again, it appears in ancient Egyptian traditions. The notion that we could lift huge blocks with...
If there's one person who can get people excited about ancient civilizations, it's Graham Hancock. Somehow he knows exactly what to say to pull you in, and most of what he says sounds believable too. But what's the latest theory that the Brit has brought to audiences this time? Well, stick around to find out his most recent claim about the lies that archaeologists have spread about ancient technology. The British author spent a lot of his time theorizing about what was really happening in the past. According to him, Hancock is sure that tens of millennia ago, there existed a civilization that was much more advanced than history actually tells us. He argues that these advanced civilizations had a deep understanding of science, maths, and spirituality. Hancock also believes that we can find evidence of these civilizations in the form of ancient monuments and artifacts. One specific site that Hancock focuses on is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which dates back to 11,600 years ago. Hancock believes that this site was too advanced to have been built by hunter-gatherers alone and must have had help from a more advanced civilization.
But I think what we're looking at in Göbekli Tepe is what I call a transfer of technology, that people who already knew agriculture and who already knew how to create megalithic structures came to Göbekli Tepe. They used the construction of Göbekli Tepe to mobilize the local population, and in the process they taught them agriculture.
While Hancock can only speculate about the people who constructed the site, he believes that the evidence found proves that they had sophisticated architecture and even carved figures representing astronomical constellations. From these observations, he concluded that there were unfamiliar and unknown people who had already dominated all the arts and traits of a high civilization more than 12,000 years ago in the depths of the last ice age. However, the late German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt had a different conclusion after excavating Göbekli Tepe for more than 2 decades. You see, some people actually did the research before making such significant claims. Schmidt believed that the site was used for ritual and feasting rather than as a residence. The site is filled with refuse including sediment, animal bones, flint tools, and the remains of cereals and other plant material. The megaliths found at the site, which Schmidt called monumental religious architecture, suggest a highly complicated mythology and capacity for abstraction. This discovery has forced archaeologists to rethink the way we view the prehistoric lifestyle of hunting, gathering, and foraging in northern Mesopotamia. In fact, while it may be hard for Hancock to believe that these hunters and gatherers had the ability to do so, they were capable of more than we previously thought, and that the origins of religion may have to be pushed back by millennia. Plus, Göbekli Tepe is actually a pre-pottery Neolithic site that doesn't contain any evidence of metal or metal workings. This is pretty interesting since clay pottery and metals are usually associated with more advanced cultures. But if Hancock's assumptions were valid, wouldn't there have been evidence of some kind to prove that they were in fact an advanced culture? It's definitely not a link to any lost civilization like Hancock suggests. He writes about how our ancestors were initiated into the secrets of metals and sword making, but none of the archaeological sites he talks about actually show evidence of this, not in non-Roman areas of Baalbek, Easter Island, or at Göbekli Tepe. The 72-year-old has also claimed that the pyramids in Egypt were built because advanced machinery existed at the time, and it wasn't the work of just pulleys. Why does he think that? Well, some researchers in Egypt have stumbled upon a 4,500-year-old ramp system that was used to pull alabaster stones out of a quarry. This system could offer some insight into how the Egyptians built the pyramids. A group of archaeologists from the University of Liverpool and the French Institute for Oriental Archaeology in Cairo found this ramp at an ancient quarry site in the eastern desert, and it dates back all the way to the time of Pharaoh Khufu, who is said to have built the Great Pyramid at Giza. The ramp system consists of a central ramp with 2 staircases and several post holes. The post holes were used to pull up heavy alabaster blocks using ropes attached to the sleds. Even though this is an important discovery, it's easier to say how significant it really is once archaeologists release their research. This discovery, along with other theories, has convinced people like Hancock and Joe Rogan to believe that the pyramids were made by a race with access to advanced technology. During an episode of the JRE podcast, Rogan expressed his amazement that ancient civilizations could construct architectural marvels like the pyramids. He was curious about how a civilization so old could have such advanced knowledge to build impressive structures like the Great Pyramid of Giza. He wondered about the society and culture behind it and how they managed to be so smart, considering the pyramids are 5,000 years old. And you can see why he's amazed. The Great Pyramid of Giza alone is made up of 2,300,000 stones, and its engineering is mind-boggling. And that's when he brought up every conspiracy theorist's favorite conspiracy. He believed that an advanced human civilization that was decimated later was responsible for the construction of the pyramid because a ramp to Hancock wasn't a good enough explanation.
Now, Egyptologists will tell you that, they could move heavy blocks because they put them on wet sand and they push them along on wet sand. Well, maybe if you're just at ground level, that will do. But when you're 350 feet above the ground, as you are in the King's Chamber, that won't do at all. I don't know how they did it. All I know is they did it. I don't think anybody knows how they did it.
He referred to the Younger Dryas impact theory and expressed his agreement with the idea put forward by Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson that humans had reached a high level of sophistication but were struck by comet impacts. Graham has repeatedly brought up one example that we think you need to take a look at as well.
But then you have to confront basic laws of physics. You can't haul a stone weighing tens of tons up a slope that exceeds 10 degrees. Then you start doing the calculation. How long a ramp do I need with a 10-degree slope to get to 350 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a fucking long ramp, which should still be there.
It's no wonder why Joe Rogan is right about the scientists being stumped.
Somehow or another, they figured this out. It's almost like what they had done was leave behind something that was so stupendous, so monstrously impressive that it would transcend time.
Yeah.
And that you would have to look at it even thousands and thousands of years later and say, hey, like this defies conventional explanation.
We're starting to see just why this theory is so intriguing to Joe. But not everyone is happy with this reasoning. That's why researchers around the world are still trying to figure out how the pyramids of Giza were built and are always looking for new ways to study the pyramids. A study found on the Ancient Origins website says that the Egyptians used sound in building the Great Pyramid in Giza and depended on the dead end within the rock inside the pyramid room as a resonance tube that produced ultrasonic waves at a frequency of around 5 Hz. This raises the question of how important sound was to the ancient Egyptians and if we can find any evidence of sound being used by other ancient cultures. A historian from the 10th century, Abul Hassan Ali al-Masudi, wrote about ancient Egypt and the methods they used to move massive stones, including those used to build the pyramids. He said that symbols on a magic papyrus were placed under each stone and then a metal rod was hit against the stone to make it levitate. According to al-Masudi, the stone was then moved along a path with metal poles on each side. Some believe these poles could have been used to make high-frequency sounds that caused the levitation. And even though there's no solid proof that the pyramids were built using acoustic levitation, the Great Pyramid of Giza does have some impressive acoustic abilities, like amplifying sounds at specific frequencies. And Hancock doesn't seem to understand why researchers are not more open to these possibilities, because the people who built the pyramids in Giza clearly had a lot of knowledge about sound and its effects, which may have also included levitation.
Using some kind of sound effect, some kind of use of sound that was able to manipulate matter. We know that sound can manipulate matter, as a matter of fact, but they're lifting these blocks, again and again it appears in ancient Egyptian traditions.
But researchers have been open to these ideas. All over the world, they've been trying to work out the design of the pyramids of Giza, but a UK-Brazil team and a University of Bristol team both used different methods to actually achieve levitation. The UK-Brazil team was able to surpass previous limits on the size of the object that could be levitated by using 3 ultrasonic transducers in a tripod arrangement. The combined effect of the transducers created a stationary sound wave that negated the force of gravity in a particular area. Meanwhile, the University of Bristol team used a single ultrasonic transducer with a sound reflector to create a standing sound wave that stayed in place even after being reflected back on itself. These experiments showed that levitation through sound waves is possible and that there are different ways to do it. Future experiments may find even more ways to use sound to overcome gravity, and some of them might be more powerful than what we have seen so far. But wait, did Graham say that we should consider the possibility that psychic powers may have been in play?
Maybe the idea that they regard as absurd, namely that psychic powers were cultivated by ancient civilizations, that they could use powers of the human mind that we have allowed to lapse, maybe that idea deserves further consideration.
Remember when we said that researchers are constantly studying the pyramids? Well, further investigations resulted in another discovery that gave Hancock more leverage to uplift his theory. Scientists announced that they found a hidden void in Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza that's at least 100 feet long. It's said to resemble the dimensions of the pyramid's Grand Gallery, but what's inside and its purpose still needs to be determined. That's why scientists are even more baffled. This is the first prominent inner structure discovered in the 4,500-year-old pyramid since the 1800s. An archaeologist and Egyptologist who is also a National Geographic emerging explorer was quoted saying that this is the discovery of the century and that no one ever imagined such a big void above the Grand Gallery. The discovery came from the Scan Pyramids project, an international mission aimed at non-invasively peering into Egypt's most giant pyramids. The project had previously announced the detection of some interesting voids and anomalies, which isn't surprising, as the pyramid's interiors are said to be more pockmarked than people imagine. The recent discovery of the Great Pyramid came as a shock, though, and is considered the most significant breakthrough yet with muon radiography, a type of imaging that was first used in the pyramids of Giza. Chris Morris, a physicist from Los Alamos National Laboratory who's knowledgeable in muon imaging, says that it's a remarkable find, and he's even a bit envious of the team who made the discovery. Muon radiography works by using muons, which are tiny subatomic particles that are constantly showering Earth from cosmic rays colliding with our atmosphere. Scientists can detect these muons with special films and detectors that track their 3D movements. Since muons can pass through empty spaces more quickly than solid materials, scientists can map out the solid and empty parts of a structure by placing multiple muon detectors around it. Roy Schwitters, a particle physicist from the University of Texas at Austin, says the muons are just right as they lose enough energy for scientists to detect them, but not so much that they get absorbed by the target. Kunihiro Morishima, a physicist from Nagoya University, led a team that placed muon detectors inside the Great Pyramid starting in December 2015, and they collected data for several months. In March 2016, researchers were surprised to find that a part inside the pyramid was letting more muons through than they thought. This meant that there was a 100-foot-long empty space that looked like the Grand Gallery. Two other teams from Japan and France worked to check the results from August 2016 to July 2017. They each used a different way to see the muons and found the same thing, a big empty space. The results were very accurate and showed that there was less than a 1 in a million chance that it was a mistake. The co-author of the study, Mehdi Tayyubi, said that they have yet to learn much about the empty space, but they know it exists, which was unexpected. While none of these teams has a clue what the void is, Egyptologists have already come up with some theories. A Cambridge archaeologist, Spence, thinks the void could have been used during the construction of the Great Pyramid as a ramp to move the massive blocks into place. Spence says the position of the void supports this theory and that it's too well placed for anything else. An Egyptologist at the American University in Cairo, Salima Ikram, believes the void's location above the Grand Gallery might indicate its connection to the construction of the corridor. However, she humorously adds that speculation is always welcome, but it's best to take it with a grain of salt. But unlike the researchers who know that these assumptions are precisely that, assumptions, Hancock offers no such option. He ultimately believes that the existence of the empty space once again proves that he was right about assuming that some genius civilization was responsible for the pyramids. He argues that the pyramid was not simply a tomb for a pharaoh as is often assumed, but was instead a kind of machine that was designed to harness and manipulate energy.
10 feet of solid stone above the Grand Gallery, and then above that, what looks like another Grand Gallery. In other words, it raises the possibility that there is an entire concealed, previously undiscovered passageway system inside the Great Pyramid.
According to Hancock, the void is evidence of an advanced technology that was used by an ancient civilization that possessed knowledge that we have yet to rediscover. He argues that the space could have been used for any number of purposes, including energy storage or transmission. Hancock also believes that the discovery of the void is part of a larger pattern of discoveries that have been made in recent years. He points to other ancient structures around the world, such as the temples of Malta and the megaliths of South America, which he believes are part of a network of similar structures that were built by the same advanced civilization. Structures such as Stonehenge in England and the pyramids in Egypt were built using advanced engineering techniques and precise astronomical alignments. According to Hancock, this level of sophistication is not consistent with the primitive technology and knowledge of the time.
They found what they believe is evidence for a huge void above the Grand Gallery that has never been known before. The Egyptologists have been so resistant to this, saying this is nonsense, there can't be, there can't be anything new that we don't know about, or if it is, it's just trivial, it's just some space between the rocks, it's nothing important.
And this isn't even the half of it. One of his most fascinating theories is about the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt. Hancock believes that the Sphinx is much older than previously thought and that it too is a remnant of a lost civilization that was destroyed by a catastrophic event around 12,000 years ago. According to Hancock, the conventional dating of the Sphinx is wrong. He argues that the Sphinx was not built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, as most archaeologists believe, but much earlier during a period of human history that has been forgotten, and he has bits of evidence to back it up. First, he points to the erosion patterns on the Sphinx, which he says are not consistent with the erosion caused by wind and sand over the centuries. Instead, he suggests that the erosion was caused by water, which would indicate that the Sphinx was built during a wetter period in Egypt's history, around 10,500 BC. This is a controversial claim, as mainstream archaeologists argue that erosion patterns are consistent with wind and sand erosion. Second, Hancock believes that the Sphinx is much older than the pyramids of Giza, which are generally dated to around 2,500 BC. He suggests that the Sphinx was built by a civilization that was much more advanced and attributes them for its existence as well. Hancock points to the mythologies and legends of many cultures around the world that speak of a great flood or other catastrophic events that destroyed a previous civilization. Of course, Hancock's theories have been met with a lot of skepticism from mainstream archaeologists and historians. They argue that there is no evidence of a lost civilization that predates the ancient Egyptians, and that the Sphinx was built by the same people who built the pyramids. They also point out that the Sphinx is facing due east, which suggests that it was built as a solar monument, as the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with the sun and its movements. However, Hancock's theory has also gained a lot of support from alternative researchers and those who are interested in ancient mysteries. Many people find his arguments compelling, and they're drawn to the idea that there is a lost chapter of human history that has been erased from the history books. One of the most intriguing aspects of Hancock's theory is his suggestion that the Sphinx contains a hidden chamber or tunnel. He believes that there are clues in the ancient texts and myths that suggest the existence of such a chamber, and that this chamber may contain the secrets of the lost civilization that built the Sphinx. Of course, we are yet to find any evidence to support his claims. But there is one part of all his theories that we have yet to explore further, and that is the cataclysmic event that brought a sudden end to this advanced civilization. Hancock is one of the few at the forefront who can be seen pushing his theory further into the limelight. According to him, the Earth has experienced cataclysmic events in the past, such as floods, earthquakes, and meteor impacts, which have wiped out advanced civilizations and caused the extinction of numerous species.
The story was of a great advanced civilization that had been destroyed
in an enormous flood. And that flood can be dated because Plato tells us what the Egyptian priests told Solon. When Solon asked when was Atlantis submerged beneath the ocean.
In fact, Hancock stated that the human race is a species with amnesia, and we have simply forgotten that we are not the first advanced race to set foot on this planet, and that if you were to look back 12,800 years ago, you would see a civilization that was decimated by a natural cataclysm called the Younger Dryas. If you don't know, the Younger Dryas was a period of time when the Earth's climate underwent a rapid and significant change. The planet had been warming for thousands of years, but around 12,800 years ago, temperatures suddenly dropped and the planet entered a period of cold and dry weather that lasted for more than 1,000 years. This, so the theory claims, had a significant impact on human civilization, leading to the end of many advanced cultures and the disappearance of various species of plants and animals. There have been many theories proposed to explain the end of the Younger Dryas civilization. One of the most widely accepted theories is that it was caused by a massive comet impact. According to this theory, a comet or asteroid struck the Earth, causing widespread destruction and triggering the onset of the Younger Dryas period. This theory is supported by the discovery of a layer of sediment at several sites around the world that contain high levels of iridium, a rare metal typically found in extraterrestrial objects. Another theory proposes that the end of the Younger Dryas was caused by a massive release of fresh water from the North American ice sheet. This theory suggests that as the ice sheet melted, a massive amount of fresh water was released into the ocean, disrupting ocean currents and leading to the onset of the Younger Dryas. This theory is supported by the discovery of large freshwater lakes in the North American region that dates back to that time. There are also theories that suggest the end of the Younger Dryas was caused by a combination of factors including volcanic activity, solar changes, and changes in ocean currents. These theories propose that the Younger Dryas was the result of a complex interplay of various natural forces that led to significant changes in the Earth's climate.
Ancient apocalypse 12,800 years ago that wiped that from the human memory banks almost completely, not entirely completely because there were survivors, but removed most of it. Randa will tell you, sea level rise, it creates a powerful high energy zone.
But regardless of the cause, the end of the Younger Dryas had a significant impact on human civilization. Many advanced cultures, including the Clovis culture in North America and the Folsom culture in South America, disappeared during this period. It is believed these significant changes in the environment and the availability of resources made it difficult for these cultures to survive. The end of the Younger Dryas also had a significant impact on the natural world. Many species of plants and animals disappeared during this period, including the mammoth, the saber-toothed tiger, and the giant sloth. It is believed that the changes in the environment made it difficult for these species to survive, leading to their extinction. In short, ours is not the first advanced, globe-straddling civilization to have existed on this planet. There was another in the very distant past, now completely lost. But why are scientists and archaeologists not open to these theories? So Graham Hancock has been on a mission for many years to uncover the sages who he believes brought us civilization. However, despite all his efforts, he has not been able to provide enough evidence to persuade archaeologists that the standard timeline of human history needs to be radically changed. He believes that the mainstream science is limited by a uniformitarian model of slow, gradual change, and therefore cannot accept a catastrophic explanation for the origins of civilization. But the truth is that this isn't entirely accurate. In fact, mainstream science has a long history of embracing catastrophism to explain some of the biggest events in our history. From the Big Bang to the formation of the moon, from meteor strikes to the extinction of the dinosaurs, and from the sudden collapse of ancient civilizations to the present-day effects of climate change, scientists have long recognized the role that sudden and catastrophic events can play in shaping the world we live in. Also, many experts in the field have dedicated their careers to studying these events and have developed incredibly sophisticated theories and models to help us understand them. So while Hancock's ideas have not been widely accepted by the archaeological community, It's worth noting that the scientific community as a whole is no stranger to the idea of catastrophism. It is a concept that's been around for a long time and continues to play a crucial role in our understanding of the world we live in. The real magicians, the scientists who have worked tirelessly to unravel the mysteries of our past and present, and who continue to push the boundaries of what we know and what we think is possible.